Hello there. It is me, Mr. Valentine's Day himself. Oh, I put real alcohol. Oh, I forgot. I bet you are wondering, what piece of cinema could the most romantic man in the world watch on the most romantic day of the year? Would you like for me to tell you? All right. As you wish.
Inconceivable.
The Princess Bride is a 1987 classic directed by Rob Reiner. It is a fairy tale adventure about a beautiful young woman and her one true love. He must find her after a long separation and save her. They must battle the evils of the mythical kingdom of Florin to be reunited with each other. The quality of this movie is leagues ahead of most of the 80s movies that I've watched recently. I mentioned pacing a lot in some of the older movies. It's become a little bit more popular in recent years to have kind of snappier editing. Even when I reviewed Spinal Tap, which is a Rob Reiner movie, I felt like it kind of loses its momentum towards the end. But this movie proves that theory wrong. It is just 90 minutes, no fluff. The pacing is perfect on this movie. The kind of setup of the love story between Wesley and Buttercup, played by Carrie Elways and Robin Wright, it feels a little rushed, but by the end of the movie, it doesn't really bother me that much.
Marriage is what brings us together today.
The sets are really simple and effective. The cast is absolutely perfect. Mandy Patinkin and Andre the Giant are really fun in this movie. Carol Kane and Billy Crystal have such small screen time but are so memorable.
The king's thinking son fired me, and thank you so much for bringing up such a painful subject. While you're at it, why don't you give me a nice paper cut and pour lemon juice on it? We're closed!
Carrie Elways in this movie. This is 100% his movie. He's perfectly cast, and I'm kind of bummed he really doesn't do more comedies. Other than like Hot Shots and Robin Hood Men in Tights, this is one of his only comedies, like true comedies. His paralyzed acting in this movie is such underrated comedic gold. Speaking of comedic gold, I don't know if I find anything funnier than somebody rolling down a hill for way too long. I might be just a moron, but it makes me laugh every time. Absolute bravo to the stunts people for rolling down that hill for so long. Also with the stunt team, there's a section in the fire swamp where a stuntman for Wesley dives into a pit of quicksand. An amazing stunt. The accuracy of making it into the sand, because I believe they filmed it with a trap door underneath it. The precision, the timing, everything. It's such an underrated stunt. A lot of older fight scenes sometimes kind of look a little bit like Kirk versus Gorn in Star Trek. The sword fighting in this movie is absolutely incredible. Carrie Elways and Mandy Patinkin studied for a couple of months to get ready for that fight. The choreography is absolutely stunning. This movie is so silly, and I love how silly it is. But what I think it does perfectly is that as silly as the movie is, it doesn't cross the line of being too silly. I love Mel Brooks movies like Spaceballs and Robin Hood Men in Tights, but those movies are ridiculously silly, and that works, and I do love movies like that. Sometimes you lose a little bit of the story and the emotion to be over the top silly. This movie does a good job of balancing very outlandish comedy without necessarily jumping the shark.
But I've got my country's 500th anniversary to plan, my wedding to arrange, my wife to murder, and Gilda to frame for it. I'm swamped.
When it comes to the acting, the comedy, the fight scenes, the romance, I loved everything about this movie. It's been a very long time since I had seen it, and honestly, going back and watching it now, I think it's essentially a perfect movie. I'm gonna give this one a 10 out of 10. Thank you for watching. It is my pleasure to talk about The Princess Bride. You know, being Mr. Valentine himself, I get asked questions all the time. Mainly 3 questions. Question number 1, what accent is that? Question number 2, where's the rest of your mustache? And question number 3, Mr. Valentine himself, you're married, but is there any way that you could give me a chance? The answer to all 3 of those are the same. To quote the great Wallace Shawn, inconceivable!